Procedural content generation is the general idea that computers or artificial intelligence can automatically generate content based on a pre-existing algorithm or process. The content can range from games, art, music, books, and other multimedia. PCG can be traced back to board games such as Kriegspiel, chess, Dungeons and Dragons, and Pathfinder, which procedurally alter the game as you go. The only human action here is rolling the dice and making choices, while the board automatically modifies the story or the terrain according to a predefined set of rules. So, a level made in Mario Maker won't count towards PCG. Neither does this fantastic drawing made by Toothless. The core concept of PCG requires that the content be automatically generated, often using a set of predefined rules. The origins of PCG have been traced back to the early 60s and 70s with the advent of fractals in computer graphics. Even before games, PCG was used to generate art and music, like this tour I made in Blender. A good example of procedural music is this composition titled In C by Terry Riley. An old form of art called Pisanki has a procedural method of creation. The results are these beautiful painted eggs. Regardless of prior use, PCG has the most impact in video games.
Well, procedure generation is magic. It's a way of cheating. You know, it's great. It's getting infinite storage, infinite processing power. But actually, practically speaking, it's trying to make sure that there is something interesting to find.
The most significant usage of PCG in games was in the 1980 game Rogue. This was also the birth of roguelike games. Another very good example of PCG is the demo scene Krieger, created by the product. All content is rendered at runtime, and the game's size is only 96 kilobytes. Using PCG in video games is complicated, since a video game consists of several elements and PCG can, theoretically, be used for all of them. We could be sitting here all day and yet barely scratch the surface of all PCG techniques. Therefore, I'll be going over a few games that use PCG. Spelunky is a very good example of PCG in games. Created by Derek Yu in 2008, the game uses PCG to generate multiple game components.
So each level in Spelunky really starts with a grid of 16 rooms, 4x4, just like this. And then we draw a path from the entrance at the top of the level to an exit at the bottom of the level. You're always going down in Spelunky for the most part. So we generate this path and we mark each room as being part of the path. And for each room, we have a set of template rooms that we can pick from. And what set of templates we choose depends on the area of the game that the level is in and whether the room falls on a path. So for example, if we need a corridor that connects two other rooms, then we draw from the set of corridor templates and put it in there. And within each template, there are these little randomized chunks that are specified, and that it just adds variability and more interesting things to these set templates. And then at the very end, we add monsters, treasure, traps, and whatever else to kind of complete it. And that's about it.
Just a year later, another indie game using elements of PCG was released, Minecraft. The environment generation uses a Whittaker diagram. XCOM used a similar concept of generation using level chunks called plots and parcels.
So we have these things called parcels, and if you think of parcels, those are sort of like levels in XCOM 1. They could be a building, they could be a park, they could be anything you want it to be. And they work on this thing that we call a plot system. That is sort of the transition matrix that kind of the parcels pop into little empty holes. So the roads are essentially empty. And whether it's cars that drop down, trees, telephone booths, whatever, all those kind of objects, now they come in procedural chunks as well.
Although PCG has a lot of strengths, it has its limitations as well. PCG relies quite a bit on pseudo-randomness, which is not always a good thing.
Randomness can be good if it fits the vision of the game and it doesn't have to marry with aesthetic and logic if it's more of an abstract game. But in our world, there is this narrative core and this platform that you're on Earth you have to have an emotional connection with Earth. You have to recognize the convenience store that you see on the corner. Things were just too random with our original system, where that emotional connection was completely getting broken because there wasn't enough logic behind it. So you didn't feel like you were saving Earth. You sort of felt like you were saving this hodgepodge of Earth-like components arranged in a random way. So we had to unify the two of mechanics and aesthetics and narrative, and that's what we feel like we've done with XCOM 2.
Apart from a lack of comprehension of created artifacts, procedural generators also have a finite generative space until repetitions occur. This also leads to trade-offs between artifact quality and render times. Despite significant strides in PCG, there's still a lot to be done. The future of PCG will mostly be spent dealing with its current limitations. However, looking back at PCG's progress, I can only say that its future looks bright and promising.